Hello, everybody. I hope your summer is going well. We've just passed through the 4th of July weekend and we keep moving on. And that's what we're doing in our alternate Old Testament reading for this coming Sunday. Remember, there's 2 tracks that you can take, and the one is a continuous read right through some of the Old Testament scriptures. We've been talking about the kings. First it was Saul, and now it's David. David has been enthroned as king, and we move into 2 Samuel, the 6th chapter now. And this is the time when David decides that, hey, the Ark of the Covenant belongs in the city of David, Jerusalem. So he gathers up a whole bunch of his men, thousands of them, and they go to this little podunk little town west of Jerusalem where the ark had been kept there by a man named Abinadab. Now, don't go running to your concordances and look up Abinadab, because there's a whole bunch of different Abinadabs out there. But this particular one had been taking care of the Ark of the Covenant, because remember, there's no temple. There is no temple. And the ark had kind of gone from here to there, but this is where it was housed. So David decides, let's bring it into the city of David, into Jerusalem. So he gets all these people, and they're dancing, and they're singing, and they're just thanking God, because the ark, don't forget, symbolized God's presence. In fact, they really, truly believed that God was present in that ark. Well, as they often say, if something can go wrong, it will. The cart that was carrying the Ark of the Covenant, it was pulled by a couple of oxen, hit a bump in the road, and the Ark of the Covenant was getting ready to fall off. So one of Abinadab's sons reached out to touch it, to hold it on there. And remember, or maybe you don't remember, but you're not supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. If you do, you will be struck dead. The way they moved it around, it was on 2 wooden poles, so that you didn't have to touch it. Well, this son got struck dead by God. David got angry at God. I mean, he was angry, so angry. He said, this is just ridiculous, God. Why did you do that? Why did you strike him down? And then David got afraid that God might do something to him for being angry, whatever. So he decides to dump it off. Not dump it literally, but just leave it where it was. And they happened to be in and near the home of a Philistine. He leaves it in the home of one of his enemies. And then he goes on his way. He said, forget this. I can't take care of this ark. It's just going to kill all my people. It's going to stay right where it's at. Well, it ends up that this Philistine and his family are richly blessed by God for watching over the Ark of the Covenant. David gets report of this, and he goes, wow, man, maybe we should keep on bringing that thing back to my own city, the city of David, Jerusalem. So after 3 months of being in this Philistine's house, he retrieves it and brings it back. And it is a neat story about God's presence and people being joyful, because the whole flavor of David's reign has now turned from lament that we had last week and the week before that, Saul being killed and just a deterioration of the kingdom. Now it's moving into exaltation and joy and happiness. But here's the neat thing. There's part of the story that got left out, as normally happens with our lectionary readings, and sometimes it's just to shorten it a little bit, but sometimes it's to leave stuff out that's kind of head scratching and things you don't want to tell your little kids. Well, just to make a long story short, before Saul had died, when Saul and David were still getting along, Saul had given David his daughter Michal in marriage. And that's a story in and of itself, but Michal and David really loved each other. Well, as David now is bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, He's dancing and having a great time. The problem is, the only thing he's wearing is this apron type of deal that the priests would wear when they're doing their ritual sacrifices. He's not wearing anything else. So Michael gets really ticked off at him and calls him out and says, "You just exposed yourself to every little girl out there and every maid and who do you think you are, David?" David goes, "I'm the king. God anointed me as king over these people, and this is a joyful time, and I'm going to dance, and God will bless all those maids." And David didn't go into his wife anymore. She was childless till the day she died. What do you make of that story, people? Kind of fascinating. It's the way the Old Testament scriptures are. They're open, they're honest. They show the humanity of the people who were leading the people of God. So it's one thing to kind of skim over those stories when there's little kids sitting around. You're not going to talk about that story around the campfire with your grandkids. They're all going to be going, "What's that all about?" No. But as adults, we need to see this stuff. We need to realize that the Bible is not silent on all the quirkiness that goes on in the human realm. What I get out of the story, though, even when you skip those little, I don't know what you might call them, those interesting little parts. When you put that aside, you see that David did have a concern for the Ark of the Covenant, really wanted it in the centralized powerhouse of the kingdom, which was Jerusalem, and that's why he moved it there. And as we'll see later on, his big concern was building a temple for it, building it a permanent place to stay. And I haven't looked ahead that far, but I think we may be getting into that story, although in our lectionary readings last year, we kind of touched on it. But in the alternate one that flows right through the book of Samuel, we're probably going to hit it once again. Well, I don't know about your house, and this is a little cottage that we have here that we enjoy, especially sitting on the porch during this time of year and all times of the year, enjoying the great outdoors. And our little woodpecker back there too. He's Woody Woodpecker. Get it? Wood. Okay, never mind. God's blessings be with you, and have an awesome day.